All right. Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome in. Every time, if I'll give somebody $1 if they could actually shoot, this is being recorded. I'll give someone $1 if you can guess what I'm about to say. I wish we had some welcome music. It's always so awkward when we open up the room and I'm just like, hello, silence. So, as usual, I'm going to ask as people are coming in, we're going to give it a minute or two for people to jump in. But if you could drop your name, um, organization, and whether you are returning to the series or if you are new to the series in the chat, that would be great. That way I know people can hear me, your fingers and your keyboards are working. Nice. We've got some returners. I love it. Okay, everyone's keyboards are working. This is great. Returner, second one. Okay, Jennifer, so you've been to two. Jennifer, what two have you been to? That's a question. All right. First webinar. All right. Missed the first one. No worries. We've got recordings for that. So if you need it, let me know. We will share. All right. Hello, everybody. Okay. I'm sure we will catch a few more people as we go on. No worries, Leslie. Hello, everybody. Good to see you all again. Good to see you for the first time, if this is the first time you're joining us. Um, as the title slide says, this is session 3 of 3. So we're focusing in on the renewal campaign today. Subtitle says it all. So we're going to be talking about how to stop running a rescue operation. If you have caught the recruitment and the onboarding campaigns previous to this, this is where everything really comes together. But again, if this is your first one, don't worry. It also stands on its own perfectly fine. If you would like the all of the recordings of the previous sessions, go ahead and send me a note. I'm going to drop my email in the chat. I will direct you to so I'm just moving my screens around. I will direct you to the recordings. All right. So as per usual, we are starting off with a few introductions. First up is me. I'm Brittany. I'm the senior marketing manager here at PropFuel. I spent about a decade inside associations before this. So I was in the weeds building recruitment campaigns, building onboarding campaigns, building renewal campaigns, building all the campaigns myself. So everything that we're walking through today is stuff that I actually wrestled with, stuff that I had my hands in, right? My goal today is fairly simple, and that is to leave you with a framework that you can use this week. Which reminds me, we have left the campaigns or left these webinars with a few suggestions or action items. I'm curious if anyone who is returning has used any of those action items. If you have, go ahead and put it in the chat. If you have not, I'll be slightly sad, but I also get it because again, I've been in your shoes. I know how time flies and the week goes by quickly. So every time you learn something new and you want to implement it, things come up and I get it. Isabella, yay, you made my day. Planning on using it. Even if just one person uses it, more than happy. As per usual, again, a quick introduction on PropFuel as well. This is the system that we're going to be speaking to, how people are doing these campaigns. But we are a member insights and engagement platform for associations. So the idea behind the platform is based upon a pretty simple thought, which is what if you knew what every member wanted and what to do next? And in order to know this, it all starts with a question, right? So the whole theme is like engagement starts with a question. You ask your members a question rather than tell them everything. You capture that insight, aka you listen to what they have to say, and then what you learn drives what you do or how you act. So ask, capture, act. You'll see that thread run through everything today. And at the end of the day, the whole goal is to help you make membership meaningful for each individual member. All right, so here is where we are headed today. first, we're going to talk about why most renewal campaigns are really turning into these like rescue operations. Then we're going to talk about how to run something differently. So we'll talk through a framework that will not be new to most people, and that's okay. Repetition is great. We'll talk about what the framework looks like in practice. So we'll show some examples, and then we're going to close again with 3 action items that you can do this week, ideally, if you can. Goal is to finish this in 30 minutes. We'll leave questions for the end. However, again, for those of you who are returning, you probably already know I tend to talk a lot. So throw your questions in the chat as we go. I'll try to address as many as I can as we're going. Otherwise, again, hopefully we'll have some time at the end to address them. And if not, then I'll send you an email after with some answers. So again, don't be shy. All right. So for those of you who have been with us, this will be a quick recap. And for those of you who are new, a quick update on kind of like what we covered and where we were. So first session was on recruitment. That was all about learning what the prospect needed and converting them based off of that tell. Onboarding was then about delivering on that and building the relationship. And that then feeds into where we are today, which is renewals. And this is really where you find out if parts 1 and 2 worked. So as we go through this, here's what I want you to sit with. The strongest renewal rates typically aren't built on anything clever in November. You might catch a few people with some clever emails at the last minute, but they're really built on 11 months of listening to the member and learning from them, right? So it's the outcome of everything that came before the invoice hitting the inbox. So let's talk about what is currently broken with renewals. And that is that most renewal campaigns find out who is disengaged at exactly the wrong moment, which is like right about when you need them to recommit, right? Right about when you're making that ask. And oftentimes, the uncomfortable part about this is that the members who don't renew actually decided months before. Um, they decided months before that renewal notice hit their inbox, hit their mailbox, whatever it is, before they got that voicemail drop. They decided the moment that they realized membership wasn't going to, or it had not delivered anything that mattered to them specifically, like to them as an individual, right? Based off of what they're looking for, what they were expecting from the membership. And the renewal notice isn't really what lost them or the process in which you were doing that. It's what made the loss more official. So keep that in mind. Hello, Maxine from Tacoma Park, Maryland. Um, so I want to be clear, this usually isn't a tools problem. The tools are typically okay, they're typically fine. Although, if you are in need of better tools, I do know one that does this really, really, really well. It starts with prop and ends in fuel. But anyways, oftentimes it is the approach, right? So we tend to see 3 patterns show up over and over again when it comes to renewals. The first is you are segmenting by membership tier instead of engagement level. So an active member and a checked out member get treated exactly the same when they shouldn't be. The second is you're oftentimes leading with the deadline and then a list of all of the benefits they might lose if they don't renew instead of the relationship that you've built with them, right? The reasons why they should stay. The third is that you're typically finding out who is at risk when it's already too late to do anything. And again, that's not too much of a surprise. The good news here is that every one of these is fixable, and that's kind of what we're going to cover today. Let me know, again, 3 things here. Let me know if I missed anything. Just drop that in the chat if you think that there's something missing here or a pattern that you typically see in your association that's not one of these 3 when it comes to renewals that you think aren't really helping your case. In the meantime, we're going to talk through the framework. So again, this sounds so repetitive, but for those of you who have been a part of the series so far, this should come as no surprise. For those of you who have been a part of any Prop Fuel webinar, this also should come as no surprise. But the framework of Ask, Capture, Act, right? So the 3 moves that are turning a payment reminder in the renewal case into an actual renewal conversation. So let's walk through what that looks like. It starts before the renewal window even opens. Okay. It honestly starts day 1. And that's why the recruitment piece and the onboarding piece came before this, because it all connects. And if you were in the webinar that led into the series, you'll know it all connects into one story. We oftentimes treat these three campaigns as separate stories and pieces, but really the goal is to treat them all as one connected story, one chapter to address in each member's case. But they all connect, right? We want it to feel fluid for the member. So 90 days out, you're asking one question, and that is, are you planning to renew this year? That is it. The goal here is that you're not waiting for the notice to go and find out who is on the fence. You are asking early while you still have time to do something with it. And again, that's the point of asking early, because it's giving you a chance to do something with the response that you're given. Then, if you're paying attention to anything I'm saying today, please, please, please pay attention to this. Before you ask anyone for money, figure out what their goal is. Figure out what they find valuable, what they like about your membership. Two reasons for this. It's going to tell you what to say in the follow-up, and it's going to make the member stop and remember why this was worth it, right? And if they get to a point where they're like, I actually can't think of anything that I used, that's when, again, you have that conversation with them of like, help us understand where we fell short so we can make it up to you in the next year. But that soft ask before that hard ask is what helps change things. The other thing to keep in mind too is that when someone hesitates, and you know this, some will, it happens. And at the end of the day too, like with all of this, you have to understand you're going to lose members. But the goal is to lose fewer members, right? And to do that, the goal is to make the membership as relevant as possible for each individual member. So anyway, when somebody hesitates to renew, again, they will. Don't just send them another reminder. Ask them what's holding them back. So it might be costs, it might be relevance, it might be a career change, it might be bad timing, it might be retirement, whatever it may be. Every one of those needs a completely different response. And all of that is data that you can take back to the association and use in the future. So you can't address a hesitation that you don't know about, and then you act on what you actually heard, right? So this is the part where this is the part like people often get wrong. Personalization isn't these tags. It isn't just a first name in an email subject line or the email itself. It's really like what happens after somebody gets an email. It's the routing, right? So if somebody tells you cost is a concern, then they're going to get a payment plan or a hardship option or another follow-up question related to the cost, maybe a discount. If it's not sure that this is relevant anymore, then they're going to get ideally another follow-up question of like, what would make this relevant for you? Help us understand what you're looking for. And then you direct them to that actual benefit or feature, whatever it may be of membership that is relevant to their response. And then at-risk members, they get a real person reaching out, right? So we're reducing the manual workload while making the membership more relevant for people. The goal here is that the answer the member gives you is what's actually determining the next step versus just having a standard template. So enough talking about the problem. We're going to talk about what this looks like in practice, right? Examples are like one of the best ways to learn, in my opinion. So what does this look like in the real world? We are bringing back the Academy of Model Aeronautics to again show how this is one connected story, right? So for AMA, by the time their renewal notice had gone out, most members already decided, like we talked about, that they weren't going to renew. But at the point in time that before AMA started using Prop Fuel, they had no way of knowing who was on the fence or why people weren't renewing. So they decided to build a 4-part campaign around that one question of, are you planning to renew, right? Gathering intent early on. Options were simple. Yes, need more time. No, each answer triggered a different follow-up, and the final check-in just asked like what was holding them back, right? And then you can see the results here. They essentially speak for themselves. Here is the actual mechanic. So this is kind of the behind the scenes part, right? So every member got the same renewal email with one question. Are you planning to renew? You see the 3 buttons here. And then on the right-hand side, you're going to see the paths. So the yeses got a thank you, and in email, right? So yes, I would like to renew. They're sent to a landing page where they can renew, and they're sent an email that reminds them and walks them through like how to renew. For those who said, no, I need more time to decide, they were sent a different response. And then for anyone who is not renewing this year, they again were asked why. So everyone got routed into a deeper conversation. Some just got an email, but these were all running behind the scenes and they were all running automatically. So diving a little bit deeper, for the members who said, no, I do not plan on renewing this year, AMA did not stop with that single response, right? They weren't just like, okay, they're not going to renew, we're going to let them go. They wanted to figure out what was holding them back. So again, not only does this allow you to better address member needs, it allows your association to gather more insights and more data from the members to better understand what's happening at the core. So when somebody said costs, so say somebody said, no, I don't plan on renewing, it's because of cost. Now AMA knows that X amount of people think that are basically being held back by the cost. And more times than not, when somebody says it's too expensive, it's because there's a value disconnect there, right? So that gives AMA insight into kind of where their members are at, right? But when they said cost, they also followed up with an additional question. So if you can read this here, it says, when you say cost, was it the membership fee itself or other expenses associated with the hobby? So now they're taking it a step further. So you're saying that cost is an issue. Is it the association, or is it that you're finding that this hobby is just expensive in general and you're putting money elsewhere? So that distinction will change how you respond, right? On the data side, again, when AMA asked the members who weren't renewing why, they got real answers. So these were no longer assumptions. They were getting real responses, real answers. You could see that cost was the biggest, and then personal circumstances, age or health. A small but telling one was this like knowledge gap. So people who just didn't understand the value. But again, here's why this matters. So each one is a different next step. Cost, you figure out what the actual details are behind that, and then you follow up with a relevant response. Personal circumstances or health, you acknowledge that and you leave the door open, not a huge hard sell. Knowledge gap, that is really like a communications problem. So figure out where you can help there. But at the end of the day, you cannot act on data that you never asked for or that you don't have. So here's where it all landed. Over the course of this was about 14 months, that one question turned into basically 12,000 conversions, which is huge. And honestly, like what it took was these 4 check-ins built around one question. And what changed is that renewal became more of a conversation instead of a chase. So the takeaway here is simple: ask early, listen to what you hear, and then act on that, right? Okay. So we're going into another example. And for those of you who are new, you did not notice this, but for those of you who are returning, I realized as I was creating this deck that I have yet to show a trade organization, a trade association as an example, and I apologize for that. The good news is that I recognized it now, so we were able to add it into this deck. And the better news is if you are a trade association and you're interested in learning more about the recruitment and the onboarding piece, you want to see how that works with this, you are more than welcome to set up a call with the team. We would be happy to walk you through it and walk you through some examples. Alejandra, our wonderful marketing coordinator, is dropping a link in the chat. So feel free to book a demo, schedule a call with the team. We can walk you through the first parts of these. Okay, back to it. So again, switching gears a little bit to a different kind of association. So WQA, Water Quality Association, is a trade association. And trade associations work differently in certain senses, right? So your member isn't necessarily like a specific person, it's a company. And the renewal goes out to one named primary contact at that company. I'm going to stop here actually because I've been talking for a minute. Let's see if people are still listening. If you are a professional or an individual association, drop that in the chat. If you are trade, drop that in the chat. If you are combo, drop that as well. So I'm interested in knowing kind of who's professional, individual, just get a good sense of the mixes here. Okay. Thank you all. As you were doing that, I will carry on. So again, your member isn't a specific person, it's a company. So if the contact, the one person that you've been working with, if they left or they got promoted or they just never have updated their information, your entire renewal effort is aimed at the wrong inbox, right? And you would never know if you didn't ask. So WQA's whole approach started one step earlier than AMA's, and that started before they asked anyone to renew. They made sure they were talking to the right person. So what does that look like? Well, again, we go back to this question, right? So they sent one simple question to about 1,200 company contacts, and that question is, are you still the correct primary contact? So 63% of people responded, which is great because all of the yeses are confirmation. Seeing that 94% said yes is great. Now you know with confidence you have the right person. It is still worth your time. It is worth their time to send that question, right? And then for the 6% who said no, uh, they got routed straight to a short form to hand over the new primary contact information, right? And the way this gets set up on our back end, we can integrate with your AMS. So individuals don't have to log in order to fill out this contact information. Once you hit submit, it'll write back to the AMS that you're working with. Everything will be updated because if members are anything like me, and I have to assume that some are, I'll give it like I've logins for everything. I'll give it 3 attempts for my name and my password. And if I can't figure it out after those 3 attempts, I'll do it later and I don't go back to it. So again, like make it as easy as possible for people to do the things that you're asking them for. Um, the how did that form handle new accounts versus existing accounts? Can you clarify that, John? Um, as you are working off of that. As you work off that question, I will address that. I'm just curious to know like what you would consider new versus existing account. Um, okay, so you fill in the info. Again, there's no staff member manually chasing them down, no stale record just sitting them year after year. The member is telling you who to talk to, and then next renewal goes to the right inbox automatically. So if the answer is no, or it is left unanswered, then WQA knows who they need to manually reach out to. So think phone calls, a direct mail piece, whatever other contact info you have, if you aren't hearing anything from them at all. All right. So once WQA knew that they had the right people, the next campaign gathered the intent, right? So this is back to kind of where we started with AMA. So a simple check-in before renewals went out. Do you plan to renew this year? 84% of them said yes, which means they could just nurture them along, put them on a nurture series. And then 8% were undecided, 8% said no. These two groups got routed to one more question to surface the hesitation. So for everyone who said no, they were asked one additional question, and that's what is holding your company back from renewing. And you can see how all of this breaks down, right? So 36% said they hadn't used the benefits, 24% weren't seeing value. So again, all of this information is gold. So half of those answers, the benefits and the value, are things that WQA can actually do something about. The retirements and the mergers, you simply acknowledge that, and then you can close it out a little bit more cleanly, unless you're an association that has a retirement category. We've seen this work so well for associations with retirement categories. For those who say like, oh, I'm not renewing because I'm retired. If they don't know you have a discounted retirement category, that's a perfect time to tell them about it. But again, you can't fix a no that you don't understand. So the whole idea is figuring out the why. For those who were undecided, so the ones who needed a little bit more time, they got a different question. And that was, is there anything that we can do to assist with the renewal? And so this one isn't really about why they're leaving. It's about how to help them stay, right? So 70% just needed more time. So you give them that time and then you check back. 17% asked for an invoice. So now you know, okay, this is manual work. We're going to manually send them an invoice. And then 9% asked to be contacted directly. So again, you know where to spend the manual staff time. The other piece of this that I don't think I touched on before is by surfacing this intent and surfacing the hesitation early, you know where to spend manual time. So instead of just sending, I used to work for an association where beginning of renewal season, we literally like printed, like I was hand stuffing envelopes and labeling with my team and sealing envelopes, taking big boxes of like direct mail renewal invoices to the post office the day renewal started. Well, like a week before they started. So they hit mailboxes October 1st. But again, if we would have just asked ahead of time, like, hey, do you plan on renewing? If the answer is yes, how do you want to receive your renewal invoice when the time comes? That could have saved like this took hours, if you could imagine, like so much time creating the documents that you had to print, fold stuff, seal, deliver, etc. It would have saved so much time if we knew ahead of time, like who actually planned on renewing, who we could pull entirely, who we could literally just send a direct link to, and who actually needed like a mailed invoice. Okay. Um, but again, every answer that they give you here. So for the people who said, I need help, contact me, whatever it may be, I likely won't renew. Anyone who said they wouldn't renew, again, directed to another question where they're asked, help us understand why. Is it something that we can help with it? Is it something we can address, etc. All right. That ends the example. Going back to the question, if form was a new contact record or updating an existing account we already have on file but needs to be updated. Okay, John, that's a great question. I believe if it's a new contact, then it's written back to the AMS as a new contact. However, I will get that answer confirmed and let you know so that I'm not telling lies. Jarmila, when do you recommend sending this message for those who plan on renewing prior to their expire date? I think that's really going to be dependent on the timing of your renewal cycle. So, Jamila, when do you guys renew? So the check-in would typically be most people start their renewal cycle. Actually, I'm going to turn this question around on the group. When do you guys typically start your renewal cycle? So for me in previous organizations, we always started about 90 days out. And that was with the are you planning to renew? So if you need to gather the correct contact information, you're thinking like 120 days out. At least, just so you make sure you have the right contact, so you know within this period of time we're going to be sending the renewal. Um, Jarmila. Okay, so if you moved from 90 to 60 days, I would do like 30 days prior to. That gives you time to, most people are going to respond to that email within the first week-ish. So if you don't have a response by then you still have some time to manually contact the organizations that might not have responded, and you need to triple check that you have the right contact. Um, but yeah, it's going to vary by organization and kind of like the timing that you have. Um, oh no, Allison and Kristen. Okay. What does that mean? Um, you don't start the renewal campaign prior to renewals? Is that what you guys are saying? Okay, let me know. While you respond to that, again, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat now. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. We've got 2 minutes. But again, where does prop fuel fit in all this? Because we did an introduction, then we went through all the examples. But again, this is the conversation that we just walked through, right? So it's running automatically. We've got 90-ish days out to close, depending again on the association. So we've got the soft intent, we've got value reflection, we've got the direct ask, and then the surfacing of the hesitation. So out of this, you better understand who always intended to renew. And oftentimes we actually see the speed of renewals coming in faster. The ones who are wavering and on the fence, they get the right nudge and you get better understanding of kind of where they're at and some time to help them ahead of time. And then your team, again, is spending time on the ones who actually need a human being. And the system is spending time on the ones that are okay with just getting a direct invoice. That's really the difference here. So if you would like to learn more about how to set this up with your organization, if you're not currently using PropFuel or you are looking for a tool that could better support really any membership use case, specifically renewals, onboarding, recruitment, whatever it may be, feel free to set up a call with the team. We're doing some wacky test on the demos here. So if you schedule a call with the team and you attend the demo, we're going to give a $250 Airbnb gift card to you, and you can use that wherever you want. It's summertime. Treat yourself to a vacation. People need a trip. Okay, I'm gonna go through. Oh, three things to do this week. Oh my gosh, we're at the half hour, so if you need to jump, we will send out the recording. However, three things to do this week. One, pull your engagement data before renewal season to better understand where people are at. Okay. Number two, this is likely the easiest. Um, Rewrite that first renewal message. Lead with a question rather than as laundry list of benefits. And the third thing is, again, add a hesitation question, meaning surface why people may or may not be renewing. Use that data to your advantage. We will, oh my gosh, I've got all of these surprises for you guys. So also, I know I said that this was the third session of three and that it's still true. However, we've got a surprise. We're going to do one more session. We realize that win backs and bringing back lapsed members are just as important, and these all connect as well. So if you would like to attend the bonus session on win backs, we are taking a break next week. I will be back the following week. Alejandra, I believe, yay! Are you guys excited because we're doing another session or because this is being recorded? Um, Perfect. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you are all excited about this. Maybe we'll do a 60-minute one this time because again, it's just can talk for hours. Love that you guys are excited. Okay, 60 minutes it is, Alejandra. Sorry, we're doing some last minute changes. Um, let's see. I'm gonna go ahead. Alejandra's gonna drop the link in the chat to join. We will likely update that calendar invite because we're gonna extend it to 60 minutes. Um, whatever questions you have, feel free to reach out. You all have my email. Um, let's go through some questions and comments. So, we'll leave this up for those who can stay with us because I know that we are again at that 30-minute mark. But okay, so Allison was just clarifying that at this point, members don't get anything that notifies them of renewal. Yeah, let's talk about getting something set up. Allison, reach out to me because I'd be interested in figuring out kind of just learning more about your association as a whole and figuring out where that gap is. Because you do want to notify your members of renewal. What else do we got? Rosetta, yes, everyone who registered will get a copy of the webinar. John. Yes, John, I believe Maxine responded to there. But yes, you can set this up for people who do monthly membership. So I know that some organizations will run on a calendar year basis, others are on an anniversary date. We can set it up either way. What other questions do we have? Da, da, da. Everyone's excited about. Oh, no worries, Allison. I'll be here. Cool. What other questions do we have? Anything? Everyone's just ready to go. All right, folks. Well, again, that's all I have for you today. Up until Winbacks not next week, but the week after. Hope everyone enjoys the next week and has a good holiday if you're celebrating the 4th. And yeah, thank you all for joining. Again, feel free to reach out. I'll drop my email in the chat one more time in case you guys need anything. Feel free to reach out to me directly. Happy to chat anytime. Thanks, everybody.